Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Today is Monday, July 31st. Can you believe it? It's the last Monday in the month, the last day in the month. Tomorrow's August. Whew, that went by really fast, didn't it? Guys, I've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to talk about something that's so important. It's something that touches everybody in the city, everybody in the state, everybody in the nation, everybody in the world. It touches everybody in one form or another. Money. Money, 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 money. And it's so important. It's so important because nobody wants to be broke. Nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to be broke, although there are some people who are poor and broke, but there's certain things that you can do so that that won't happen. And my guest tonight is going to break it down in layman's terms for all of us. His name is John Czubek. Thank you, John, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. John is a teaching assistant at Harvard University this summer, and he's teaching economics.
I am.
Yeah, you are. So we're going to ask John just some simple questions. So don't be afraid to talk about money or to learn more about money. John's going to break it down for us. Thank you so much, John, for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's just get right into it.
Let's do it.
Investing, building wealth, and money is just so important because there's some mistakes that people make that some people just really don't know.
Absolutely.
They really don't know.
The thing I would recommend to everyone, first and foremost, before we even begin, is to establish a savings account. I think before we get into the nitty-gritty details, everyone should have a savings account. And if you take one thing away from this show, please take away that you should have a savings account.
Having a savings account. You know, I stop sometimes and I talk to young people and I'm like, do you have a savings account? And they look at me, you know, like I'm crazy. They look at the lady in the yellow jacket like she's crazy. And I'm like, you know, you've got to get a savings account. You've got to get a savings account. So that's very important. So outside of savings accounts, what are some of the various investment accounts that people should at least have at the minimum?
That's a great question. I'll say there's three primary ways that you should build your wealth. First, mutual funds. Mutual funds are very, very easy. And in simple terms, how these work is that these investment firms, somewhere like Vanguard or Schwab, names we've all heard of, they'll pool together everyone's money and they'll invest in a stock index. What that means is they'll invest in, for example, the 500 biggest companies. So there's almost no risk involved in this. So you're going to take so many diverse companies, invest in that one index, and there's almost no risk. You're not going to get a crazy high 200% return, but your money's going to be safe.
It's going to be safer. It's not like you're making more money than the money that you know that your aunt or grandmother has in between her sheets.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Underneath the mattress.
And even then, there's some risk, right? There's a little tiny bit. So obviously, if you invested before the Great Recession or the Great Depression, you lost some wealth. So if you're that scared about potentially losing, and there are many studies that show we Americans are incredibly risk averse. We hate risk. We hate to lose. So if that's you, and I'm partially risk averse, bonds, perfect. You can buy a government bond, you can buy a corporation bond, you can even buy a foreign bond, different country. And they'll pay guaranteed interest on that initial amount, no risk at all.
All right, so we got mutual funds and bonds, and what's the third item?
Third, if you're risky, if you love the risk, you want the high reward, you can pick an individual stock. I would never recommend this at all, but if you think you're some sort of stock picking wizard, so for example, if you picked eBay back in the early 1990s, if you invested $1,000, you would be a millionaire right now. But these are very, very few and far between.
Right, you got your eBay, your
Amazon's,
Facebooks.
For every one of those.
Apple.
Exactly. For every one of those, we've got 10 pets.com or boo.com. We don't even know what those are because they were so hyped, they went bankrupt, people lost all their money. So I would never, ever recommend investing in just one stock, but that would be the way to hypothetically get the highest possible return.
Now, for somebody who's, maybe watching and, they're not rich, they don't have a lot of money, is there a minimum amount of money that someone can use to start investing with?
So for these fancy big-time firms, if you want to get the best expense ratio, which means the amount you have to pay to these brokerage firms, there might be a minimum of $3,000 or $5,000. But for most companies, so for example, it's called WealthSmart or Charles Schwab, they will do it no minimum at all. So
no minimum.
Anyone can do it, no minimum.
So somebody can take $100 in there.
$100, perfect. You can put it right in there.
You can put it right in there.
Absolutely.
Great. If you're just joining us, I'm Melanie, the lady in the yellow jacket, and tonight my guest is John Czubek, and we are talking about money, 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 and what you can do to make sure that, you know, you have a little money, you have a little savings, or you have that rainy day fund, or you have that retirement fund, or you may want to buy a house, you may want to get married, you may need a new car. All that stuff takes money. One thing that I know works, and this is how Warren Buffett made his money, was compounding interest.
Absolutely.
For our viewers out there, explain compounding interest.
So compounding interest is every saver's dream and every borrower's demise. So I think it's a little bit hard to articulate in a simple sentence, so I think an example will be helpful.
Sure.
So let's say we go out, we find the best savings bank in the entire country. Say they pay 10% interest, which is unheard of. We'll never find that. Don't hold out looking for that because it doesn't exist. But let's say we find it, right? We put in $100. At the end of 1 year, we earn 10%, so we've got $110 at the end of year 1. But from year 1 to year 2, we don't just earn that same $10 again. Instead, we're going to earn 10% of $110. So the next year, we're going to have $121. And it's going to compound continuously. So our initial investment is not only going to earn interest on that investment, but it's also going to earn interest on the previous interest we've accrued. So it's going to grow exponentially.
So if you have that money at home that you want to invest, remember, compounding interest works.
It'll help you tremendously. It will literally grow exponentially, meaning it'll grow small at first, but as you leave it in there for longer and longer, it will shoot up exponentially.
Okay, now let's talk about safe investments. We talked a little bit about safe investments versus the more risky investments.
So, as we talked about, studies show that the vast, vast majority of Americans, and I'm sure people around the entire globe, are what's called risk averse. We hate to lose. We hate to lose more than we love to gain. So if I asked you, if I said, Melanie, if I flip a coin and it lands on heads, I'll give you $2,000. But if it lands on tails, you give me $1,000. Would you do that?
Oh boy, probably not.
Probably not.
Because I'm not going to take the risk.
Right. But even though she would win twice as much as she would lose, she wouldn't do it. And every single person, almost every person, feels that way. So we as Americans, we want to be safe. So what are the safe options? I think the best safe option would be to invest in a stock index, something like the S&P 500. This is investing in stocks, so you're still going to get those returns, but it's spread across the 500 biggest stocks in the country, and they're totally unrelated. So you'll have Caterpillar Construction, you'll have Amazon, firms that have no relation to each other. And that's what's going to reduce the risk. If Amazon plummets, there's nothing that's going to cause Caterpillar to plummet as well. So the risks are offset by one another. Another safe option, bonds, right? You can't get much safer than a bond. It's a guaranteed payment. But the cost of that safeness is that you're not going to get a lot of money in return. I think right now a treasury bond pays around 1%. You're guaranteed to get that 1%, but is it worth your time? Will it keep up with inflation? Probably not. Another one, money market accounts. These are very, very similar to bonds. It's a short-term treasury bill, it's called. So you can go to your bank and say, I want to put X dollars in this money market account. It's going to be a very, very low return, but again, you're guaranteed to get that money.
Okay, so we have bonds, the index 500, the S&P 500, right, S&P 500, bonds, and mutual funds.
Exactly.
Right. So those are the safe things
those are
where
the big three.
You're probably not going to lose any money.
No.
But you're only going to make a little money because you're taking little risk.
Exactly right. Risk and reward proportional, and we all know that.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned inflation in that sentence. In layman's terms, can you explain what is inflation?
Oh, it's a great question. That's a really good question. So as we spend money, and as banks loan money, and more money gets into circulation, each of our dollars becomes worth a little bit less. So over time, about every year, our economy experiences inflation about 1 to 2%. So what this means is that $100 today is going to be worth about $99 or $98 next year. So instead of keeping your money under a mattress, where you're just subject to that inflation, so if you have $100, if you've kept it for 2 years, it's only worth $96 now, as opposed to putting it in an investment account where it can earn interest and keep up and potentially, as you want to, beat the inflation rate.
Okay. That's pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
Simple is best, right?
Now, you talked about, did we talk about securities?
No, but
Let's talk about securities. We did not talk about securities.
I'm glad you brought that up. Securities, a fancy word that banks use to try and make individual people think they can't handle financial terms.
And that's why we're having this show tonight, so that we can break down these terms and let you know.
Exactly right.
You know, it's not hard, but you know, you may hear securities and it's like, oh my God,
I have no idea what security is. Right.
What? Right. Go
Banks
ahead.
do this often, and security is just one example of it. A security just means anything that can be traded. So a stock, a bond, a mutual fund, money market account, all of those securities. It's just an umbrella term to encompass all the financial devices.
Just that simple.
It's that simple. And they try and trick you, and people think, oh my God, I can't do my own finances. Let me hire someone. They know what securities are. No, we all know what securities are too.
Shares, stocks, equity.
That's another classic example. Some people will say shares, stock, equity. Big time banks, corporations might tell you this. They all mean the exact same thing. Shares, stocks, equity, the exact same thing.
So they can be used interchangeably.
Totally interchangeably. And some people will try and use, as some become more common, so right now stocks is the most common word, people might say equity, so you don't know what they're talking about. That's the most common trick that these banks use. Will use terms that they think you don't know what they mean, so you use their services.
Again, if you're just joining us, I'm Melanie, and I'm the lady in the yellow jacket. And tonight we are talking about money, money, money with Harvard teaching assistant John Czubek. So please, 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 listen up, listen up. It's not hard, and John's really breaking it down into layman's terms.
I'm trying.
Yeah, you are. You're doing a great job.
Okay.
You're doing a great job. So again, shares, stocks, and equity, people, they're all the same.
They're all the same. What it means is that you own a tiny sliver of this corporation. So way back when Facebook started, I think, when did Facebook start? 2007, 2008?
2006, was it? I think it was
2006?
2006. Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they sought a venture capitalist, this is someone who will invest a large sum of money to own a lot of the company. So they gave away maybe a third of the company for $500,000, which we're like, wow, that's a lot of money. I don't have that in my bank account. But right now that company is worth about $50 billion. So he has 30% of a $50 billion company. Well, if we buy a share of that stock, we pay $100 for one. Market cap is about $50 billion, so we're going to have 100 over $50 billion. We've got 0.00001%. So the earlier that you buy share, stock, or equity of a company, the more you're going to own.
And you mentioned, tell our viewers what venture capitalists are.
Okay, venture capitalists, it sounds like a lucrative business that everyone wants to get into. It's not. But what it means is that you have these very, very rich individuals who will hear out startup companies who have new ideas. So Facebook is a classic example. eBay, Amazon, all classic examples. So they'll go to a venture capitalist and say, hey, here's my new idea. It's Facebook, XYZ, this is how it works. And this guy will decide whether or not to inject a lot of money into it to get it started, because they need a lot of money to begin. They don't have these costs. Mark Zuckerberg didn't have enough money to start it by himself.
That's right, because he was a Harvard dropout,
Right,
so he probably didn't have any money.
He has no money. He needs someone to fund the company. So he made his pitch, and someone obviously took him up on it. I don't know the exact details. I won't pretend to. But probably somewhere in the ballpark of $500,000 to $1 million for about a third of the company. And now, if he's holding those stocks still, $50 billion company, a third of it, around $15 billion he would have right now. So if you get lucky as a venture capitalist, you invest big in a company, and it succeeds, you become rich. But, as we said before, for every Facebook, there's about 10 boo.coms and pets.coms. And if you don't know what that is, it's because they failed. But people would inject $1 million into it, $2 million into it, and they would lose everything.
Right, so those venture capitalists, they lose money also.
Yeah.
Not all of them make money.
Venture capitalist is not a reliable lifestyle for most people.
So, why is it important to diversify? Look right into that camera right there and let the people know, why is it important to diversify?
I'll tell you. So I'm a big proponent of Tesla. I love Tesla. But if I were to invest all my money in Tesla, that would be the worst decision I would ever make. Because Tesla can go up and down on a dime, and then I can lose my money. If Tesla goes bankrupt, I lost my entire life savings. The beauty of diversification is I can pick 100, 200, if I choose the S&P 500, 500 different stocks. So if one goes down, one goes bankrupt, so what? I might take a 0.5% hit on my investment, but but it's not going to sink me. I'm not going to lose my life savings. The more companies, it's like insurance. The more companies that you invest in, the bigger your risk pool. The more they can fail, and you'll still be all right. If you only invest in one company and it fails, you lose all of your money. So you want to invest in as many different companies as possible to spread out that risk, just like insurance.
So, folks, it's important to have a variety of options and places where your money is, not just one. Like you said with Tesla, and Tesla is a company that makes electric cars.
So that's good. Let me add something to that because I don't think I was maybe clear enough.
Sure.
So there's 3 ways, or maybe 2 ways, that we can diversify. First, you want to put your money in a lot of different areas. What do I mean by that? We want some of our money in bonds. Remember those safe things the government will pay us guaranteed money for. We want some stocks. We want an index fund, if you can, which is that S&P 500. Third, we want savings account. That's the safest of all. That's your own personal account, and it's insured for $250,000 by the federal government.
So meaning if the bank goes, the bank goes belly up or the bank fails, you're not going to lose your money.
The bank goes belly up, your money is totally safe.
Versus the stock market, for example, like the 2008, 2009 crash in the stock market where, eventually it did rebound, but...
It did rebound, but those people who lost their life savings, there was no lifeline for them.
Right.
And third, if you're really watching this and you're really loving it, you can also invest in foreign economies. You can invest in foreign savings accounts, and that's truly diverse. I'll say only a sliver of even the most famous financiers and economists will invest overseas, partially because of this thing called the domestic bias, where every person in every different country thinks their stocks, their bonds are the best in the world, even though obviously they're not.
So is there a company here that will take my money and invest in foreign?
Absolutely. It's called a brokerage account, and you're going to hear that term to try and confuse you. What that means, these are the big companies, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity.
Okay.
You can build your own portfolio, which just means you get to choose where your money is allocated. And then you can say, do you want some of it foreign, all domestic, all foreign? It'll give you all these options, and you can choose your general options, and they'll pick the specific stocks for you. They make it so easy for you.
But we don't want money. We don't want people probably to invest in those. What are they? Swiss bank accounts where people
no Swiss bank account unless you want to get a knock on the door from the IRS.
Right, exactly. We don't want you going to jail. So we did not talk about no Swiss bank accounts here.
No routing money through the Caymans. That's not what we're saying.
Those Cayman accounts. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm Melanie. I'm the lady in the yellow jacket. And tonight we are talking about money, money, money with Harvard TA teaching assistant John Czubek. John, my goodness, we only got 10 minutes left.
This is flying.
I know, it goes by so fast. So quickly. Let's talk about the intersection of politics and money.
I love it. My favorite intersection.
Your favorite intersection?
I love it.
Okay. Let's talk about the interest rate and how it's set in the Federal Reserve Bank and its function.
The interest rate. This is the most powerful feature of our economy that people don't know anything about. So first let's talk about how it's set and then what effects it has, because there's quite a bit. So it's set by the Federal Reserve, and I'm sure most people have heard of the Federal Reserve or the Fed, and it's the central bank of the United States, which means that it controls all of the money supply. People think the federal government prints all of our money, which they do print it, but how we add or subtract from the money supply, actually from the Fed. So what do? Do they wave a magic wand and say, oh, I want the interest rate to be 2%? No, they don't. 9 out of 10 people will know the Fed controls interest rates, but will have no idea how they do it. So how do they do it, you're wondering? It's called open market operations. It's a pretty fancy term, but I'll break it down in simple parts.
Sure.
So first we've got open market purchase. What this means is that the Fed is going to take a bond and buy it from a bank. So the Fed is going to get this piece of paper, and the bank is going to get the worth of the piece of paper. So let's say they're big bonds. So let's say it's a $10 million bond. The Fed's going to get that piece of paper, right? Ooh, piece of paper. The bank is going to get that $10 million. That $10 million, since that's new money in the economy, the interest rate is going to go down. More likely to give loans, more likely to consume, more likely to invest, this and that. The flip side of that coin is called an open market sale. And it's the exact opposite. The Fed is going to say, okay, I want my money back. They're going to give the bank that piece of paper, that bond, and they're going to take all that money out of the economy. They're taking it right out. When this happens, the interest rate is actually going to go up. Because when there's less money, the price of money is going to go up, just like any good. If there's less mangoes, price of mangoes goes up, right? Same with money. Money is just a good. When there's less money, the interest rate is going to go up. So you're wondering, that's great, but what does the interest rate do? So we all know we take out a loan to buy a car, buy a house. We want a low interest rate, but it goes so much farther than that. Obviously, if we have a low interest rate, consumption is going to go up. We're going to buy that car, buy that house, because the loan won't be as expensive to pay back. But it also affects investment. And investment is not what we've been talking about for this whole time. It's a separate definition of investment. Investment by firms. So when firms hire new workers, build new factories, buy new machines, that's called capital investment. And there's all these tricky terms, again, to confuse the layman, but it's so simple. So firms will invest in new capital, new buildings, this and that. When the interest rate is low, they're more likely to do that. Just like we're more likely to buy a car or a house, they're more likely to splurge on that new building or a new machine. And when they build that new machine, they have to hire more workers. So when the interest rate goes down, they hire more workers, unemployment goes down, this is a great thing, and net exports are going to go up. We're going to export more too. That's very complex, so we won't even get into that. But it's great. When there's low interest rates, everything goes up. High interest rates, flip side of that, everything goes down. So you're probably wondering, why would anyone want a high interest rate? People are going to consume less, businesses are going to hire less, maybe lay people off, net exports go down. Why would we ever do that?
Why would someone want a high interest rate?
It's a great question. To control inflation. The only reason that we would ever want a high interest rate is to control inflation. As the interest rate goes up, remember, we're going to consume less, there's going to be way less loans, people can't pay them back, and as we spend less money, the inflation rate comes down and down and down. So they're going to control the interest rate by control the inflation rate by raising the interest rate.
John, we're going to have you back on.
I love this. I would be glad to.
Absolutely.
I would love that.
We're going to have you back on.
I would be honored.
Yes, yes. Again, if you're just joining us, my name's Melanie. I'm the host, the lady in the yellow jacket, and my guest tonight is John Czubek, and we are talking money, money, money. So hopefully you all have that, all of that, what he said. We're going to find out a little personal stuff about John now.
Okay.
So we did a little of the business stuff.
Yeah.
Now, so what are you studying at? You're a student at BU?
Yes, I am.
Okay, but right, you're teaching obviously this summer at Harvard.
Right, right.
But you're a student at BU, and what are you studying at BU?
I'm studying economics and political science.
And what do you want to do when you graduate?
So when I graduate, I'm actually going to take a gap year. I'm going to go to Greece. I'm going to work for what's called the Institute of Education. So I think that's pretty
Are
important.
you going to be teaching this? Are you going to be teaching
No.
finance?
So I'll be working with the Greece Minister of Education for deaf education, actually. I have a deaf studies minor, so I'm pretty interested in the whole deaf aspect.
Oh, okay, and people who are deaf.
Right, exactly. So effective teaching strategies for them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I think that would be fun.
That is wonderful. So it's all set up? So you said you're going to Greece?
Yeah.
Wow, so you're graduating in?
2019. So I've got 2 years, so it's still a little bit away. Thankfully, I'm not that old yet.
I mean, you're so mature, and you know, he's got this stuff down pat, and he still has 2 more years in college. 2 more years in college. So, all right, where are you originally from?
I am actually born in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I don't call it my hometown. My hometown is Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's where Joe Biden's from, right?
Joe Biden's from, exactly. Yeah. And I'm not sure if we've got any The Office fans out there, the TV show The Office. It's set in Scranton, and it's exactly as bleak as the show. There's not much going on, not a very vibrant city, but it's home, and I love it.
What does John do for fun?
I like playing sports. I think basketball, football, baseball is fun. I like to read. I think books are cool.
Okay.
I also love to just watch movies. I'm a big movie guy. I'm sort of a TV connoisseur. I've seen all the good TV shows. So I'll say sports, reading, TV, movies. Those are the big 4 for me.
Now, was this your first year teaching at Harvard?
This is my first year.
And
you saw my first ever lecture, actually.
Right. And how was your experience?
I loved it. After the first day, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing ever, because I made a spelling mistake, and then some kids were giving me sass. So I was like, what did I get myself into? This is going to be horrible. But I loved it. I got really close to the kids, and I thought it was fantastic.
All righty, all right. So we're gonna have a few rapid fire questions here in the last minute. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. I would say, without sounding too cliche, I would say follow your own instincts and not to worry about what other people want you to do. So when I was going to college, just to give you a quick example, people said, oh, don't be a political science major. I think that would be the worst thing ever. What are you going to do when you graduate? You're not going to have a job.
Yeah.
But I took the political science class, and I loved it. So I thought, I can do something that I love. People can look down on me, but I'd rather do what I love. And I enjoy every second of it, and I hope it'll all work out for me.
That's what it's definitely gonna work out for you. It's definitely gonna work out for you. Yeah, follow your dream, follow your heart. One place in the world you'd love to visit right now?
Hawaii. My dad goes all the time. He lectures there. He never takes me. I'm not sure how that happened.
Dad, I want you to take John to Hawaii, okay?
So he always shows me pictures, tells me how beautiful it is.
Okay.
And never
Your
invites
dad
me.
probably is teaching you, he's sending you to school. He wants you to, get your own money so that you can go to Hawaii on your own.
That.
Absolutely. What's your favorite food?
Hot wings. And I'll tell you what, the hot wings in this city, and I love Boston, terrible. You gotta go to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Best hot wings in the world.
We're gonna have to go to Scranton
I'm
to
serious.
get the best hot wings.
I'm serious.
Your favorite dessert?
Dark chocolate with almonds.
Dark chocolate with almonds. Hot sauce or no?
Just do I like hot sauce?
Anything. Hot
I
sauce?
love hot sauce.
Okay. If you could interview somebody dead or alive, who would it be?
John F. Kennedy, without a doubt.
John F. Kennedy. Your favorite athlete?
LeBron James, the king.
The king, LeBron James. And lastly, spring, summer, fall, or winter?
Unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say winter because I love Christmas and my birthday, January 28th.
January 28th.
I also think snow looks good.
John, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It was my pleasure.
If you're still with us, I'm Melanie, and my guest tonight, John Czubek. You can catch the show again tomorrow at 9:30 p.m. It will re-air. Set your DVRs. You can catch me and watch me anytime. Thanks so much, folks. Have a good night, and we'll see you next Monday. Good night.